So I'm Yoni. I'm CEO and co-founder at GREENTECH Technologies AG. We are a Swiss-based startup with operations and offices in Switzerland and the Netherlands. And really, in the core of what we do is provide energy solutions by utilizing Bitcoin mining. Now, I'm here today to present the other side of the industry. It's an industry that had a lot of negative PR in the news lately. And it's considered a relatively polluting industry. What I'm going to showcase today is how we are actually able to tackle challenges within the renewable energy industry and how we're able to actually push the innovation of renewable energy forward. Now, one of the main challenges is decarbonization of heat. Up to 50% of energy consumed globally is used for heating, and up to 90% of that is generated still by fossil fuels. And we're not talking about just developed countries. It's widely the case also here in Europe, where mainly natural gas is used for heating. And I will expand later on how Bitcoin mining can help to solve that problem. Next, we have stranded renewables, which is another major challenge in the renewable sector. There is a lot of renewable energy projects, mainly wind and solar, which are not able to produce at max capacity, either due to grid constrictions, when the grid is at overcapacity, or a mismatch between demand and supply, which basically leads them to being curtailed at source. On top of that, we have years and years of regulatory bottlenecks to deploy renewable energy projects. There is long times and high costs involved in that. And there is a lot of untapped potential. There's a lot of energy out there that is just simply not being used to generate electricity. Flared gas being an important topic, and I will give examples on that quite soon. So if we look at some numbers, we see that in the US, in terms of production capacity that exists in 2022 and capacity that is in line, you can see there's more capacity in line waiting to be installed than actually production being installed. This shows you the long lead times and the regulatory bottlenecks of the industry. In terms of numbers, so I will take gas flaring as an example to showcase. However, please keep in mind that this can also be the case with hydro, with wind, with solar, with landfill projects. I will just use gas flaring as an example to showcase how Bitcoin mining can actually help solve that problem. So, for those that don't know, gas flaring is actually the excess gases that come from the exploration and drilling for oil and gas. There's a lot of excess gases out there that are much more dangerous to release to the environment, so they're being burnt on source at site, kind of like the picture that you see here before. This is gas flaring. And it produces a huge amount of methane and CO2 emissions. Just in comparison to the Bitcoin mining industry in general, which unfortunately there are market players which use fossil fuels-based energy, so there is some pollution to the industry. But that is very, very small in comparison from the pollution just from gas flaring. Now, you're asking yourself, why don't these companies put a generator and use that gas to generate electricity on site and then sell that electricity forward? The reason being is that there usually are very remote locations, and in order to construct, there's a lot of investments basically involved in transmission and transmitting that energy to where the demand is. So it just economically doesn't make sense to tap into that energy. Unfortunately, we're seeing all that energy just simply being burnt today, and there's a lot of emissions involved. Now, if you're able to put and place a generator on site in one of those locations and use the generated electricity 24/7 for Bitcoin mining, you're able to avoid all those unnecessary emissions. So if we're talking about deployments of wind or solar projects on a 1 megawatt basis, we're actually seeing that pairing Bitcoin mining and gas flaring can lead to much higher savings on emissions. So in terms of the three key challenges that I've mentioned earlier, Why we're not seeing more and more decarbonization of heating? We are seeing some shift into electrified heating. However, it still does not make economic sense in a lot of parts of the world to completely shift into electrified heating. So still, most of the heating is based on fossil fuels. And as I mentioned earlier, the grid infrastructure simply cannot keep up with the development of new energy sources and new energy productions. And there's a huge mismatch between demand and supply, causing a lot of strain on existing grids. Now we'll showcase how Bitcoin mining technology and how we at GREENTECH tackle those issues. So in terms of decarbonized heating, how do you promote electrical heating? I'll have to dive in a little bit on our technology. I'll try not to go too deep inside because it is quite complex, but we're able to, all the electricity that goes into the servers gets turned into heat. And we're able to capture up to 96 to 98% of that heat and use it to generate a hot water output. So then we place our locations close to the end heat consumer and able to recover that waste heat and use it for heat consumers. In essence, if you want to simplify it, the solution is very similar to a digital boiler, but on the way, we're able to perform data center applications. And due to that economic incentives, we're able to provide subsidized and cheaper heat. And I'll showcase that later with numbers. On a number of our locations, we have completely displaced gas generation and gas usage for gas boilers by turning into digital heat. In terms of accelerating renewables and helping, in general, being beneficial for renewable energy projects, we have actually two things in play. One is that we're able to participate in demand response programs due to the fact that we're able to change the electrical load quite quickly, thus providing services to the grid management and indirectly promoting the growth in renewable energy. We're also able to go in joint ventures with energy companies and do behind-the-meter mining. In essence, being able to consume all that stranded energy that would otherwise go to waste, we're able to consume that and benefit those kind of energy projects. As I mentioned before, as a Bitcoin miner, your main cost would be the energy. That's your main operating cost. In essence, that allows us to do energy arbitrage in a very simple form. So if you take completely Bitcoin out of the equation, you're left with metrics of euro per kilowatt hour input and euro per kilowatt hour output. What we're seeing is more and more energy companies actually entering that game in recent time, including big names such as Shell, Exxon, and a bunch of other public companies, and smaller companies which own maybe smaller generating assets. We're seeing it in hydro, we're seeing it in nuclear power. A lot of them is entering the game because the numbers in the end speak for themselves. At GREENTECH, in short, we do really turnkey solutions in the sense that we produce our own digital infrastructure for the Bitcoin mining. We produce software, which pairs with the hardware, also allowing for energy arbitrage. And we are providing turnkey services from project management to engineering, commissioning, deployments, operations, and really turnkey solution, where we come and do everything in this kind of project, including financing options. This diagram is to illustrate a little bit how a circular economy would work in some of our sites. So the end heat consumer would be the greenhouse, which requires a certain amount of heat. The greenhouse would have, in a lot of cases, a gas generator or a CHP. That, if we're talking about the CHP, that will produce some amount of heat that will go directly to the greenhouse, and the electricity can be used then into Bitcoin mining, providing additional source of heat to the greenhouse, therefore meeting the heat demands of the grower, on the way producing a lot of economic benefit from the data center activities. And because we're using another source of heat from the digital heat, from the excess heat of the servers, we're able to actually drastically reduce the gas consumption on location. In many cases, they also have additional gas boilers, which we're able to completely displace, leading to less gas consumption, less CO2 emissions, and a higher economic benefit overall. But I want you to look at this diagram and also understand there's many different types of use cases. You could take the gas generator completely out of the picture and also the heat. So you could look at an input of electricity from wind, from solar, from nuclear power, from hydro. And there doesn't have to be a heat consumer. This is just one of the ways we're able to operate, but this can also work, and we work also in a lot of our projects simply with a Bitcoin mining operation just with the electrical input. Just to showcase that in terms of numbers, one of our projects in the Netherlands, one of the most expensive energy markets in Europe, we're working with a 4.5 hectare greenhouse, providing all the excess heat from the Bitcoin mining operation to the greenhouse, with a total IT capacity of almost 2 megawatts. And additional to the revenues that we make from demand response programs, additional to the revenue that we make from the Bitcoin mining operations, we're also displacing a lot of the heat from his gas boilers. So his gas boilers are, during wintertime at least, not operational, leading to a saving of 1.3 million meters cubed of gas per year, which amounts to roughly just under 2,000 tons of CO2 saved per year. And of course, the economic benefit and the sustainability benefits, they speak from themselves. So thank you for having me here. If you have any more questions, I'd be happy to hear that. And please come meet us in the booth. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions for Yoni?
I have one question. Because you said that thanks to mining Bitcoin, it is more profitable. Well, because Bitcoin is quite expensive. But if Bitcoin prices fell down, would it still be profitable?
So it's a complex answer to give on a high level, because we'll have to really dive into the numbers. But in essence, what we've done in our operation is remove completely the market risk from the operation. So in essence, it's an energy arbitrage game. And a lot of energy companies, they don't like holding Bitcoins on their balance sheets. They don't like, being affected by the market risk of Bitcoin. You're able to actually liquidate them on market price on a daily basis, having absolutely no risk of the Bitcoin market fluctuations, etc. Now, the moment you're pairing that with renewable energy or digital heat, that market risk is significantly reduced. So, in that sense, we've been operating since 2017. We've seen, a consistent price floor of 100 euros per megawatt. So there is some volatility, but we've seen quite good returns and payback periods on those operations. Yeah. Any more questions?
Yoni, to speak of Bitcoin market fluctuations is probably the mother of all understatements, I suppose. It's fair to call it. Any more questions, ladies and gentlemen? If not, I should thank our speaker, Yoni. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.